So how do you do against the big stores? How do you do?
You know, I'm very proud because every year we've been up, except for the last 3 years because of this inflation.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you said. The prices are up, but our sales are down. So we've had to get super creative in how we use our space to try
So prices go up and yet your sales are down.
Yeah. So it's been brutal just to try to. Thankfully, I have a great crew, great staff, my family. We work
How long
together.
has this been open?
We've been in business 25 years.
This was an unannounced visit to a local grocery store in Kittanning, Pennsylvania. Now, it's obvious because the people inside the store weren't escorted out when Donald Trump arrived. There also wasn't a bus of supporters who had to fill up the store for a bunch of photo ops like Kamala Harris does. Now, this quick stop showed that Donald Trump cares about American businesses. He had plenty of questions for the business owner and even talked to a few people who were paying at the counter. Now, instead of focusing on the good of this impromptu visit, many liberals are talking about one instance. And guys, before we get started, just want to thank y'all for being here. Thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Let's get started.
Here, it's going to go down a little bit. It just went down $100. We'll do that for you from the White House, all right?
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Now for context, guys, Donald Trump bought popcorn here, and he had so much money left on hand after that, so he decided to give this woman a boost for her groceries. Many within the left have cried that this is a violation of election law. However, the comments of these liberal posts have been mostly the same. They're asking if what Donald Trump did could be likened to how the Democratic Party continues to tout and push for student loan forgiveness, because we know that President Joe Biden announced that before the last midterm elections. Would that be considered illegal? And you heard what Donald Trump said. He wanted to make things cheaper for the American people, because adding money to everyone's pocket isn't going to solve anything. It's only bound to make inflation that much worse. And it's also why it's easy to believe that Kamala Harris isn't aware of basic economics. So here's a great example of both presidential candidates being asked the exact same question, but notice how different their answers are.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that.
How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you. So we have to start always with energy, always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal, and we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, you've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good, and interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, you know, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated.
You see how easy it is for Trump to just kind of answer straight away to the question? He doesn't have to talk about how he grew up or the dreams of Americans or how he's middle class or was middle class. He knows what it takes because he's already done it. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, she's completely clueless. And voters are well aware of what she's done to the country. Both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are being blamed for the costs that many of us are facing today.
Is it a little ironic that she could have done that 3.5 years ago since she's been in office? Do you trust the fact that she will bring prices down at all?
I think she's lying through her teeth, quite honestly. Yeah, I don't believe anything she says. I mean, why have we gotten to this point and she's been the vice president for the last 3 years? I think she's just a con artist, says anything she can to get elected, and as soon as she gets elected, it's going to go right back to the way it was.
And despite knowing how voters feel about them, Kamala Harris is still hiding in the basement, hiding from interviews where she doesn't have any control over the questions.
How can we trust Kamala Harris to represent us in front of the most dangerous regimes in the world if she won't even sit for an interview with the American media? Now, I say that, and I admit that I'm a little biased here, because part of the reason I think Kamala Harris should do some interviews is because the American people deserve it.
And you know who's suffering? Her surrogates, who have no answers to why she won't do a proper sit-down interview. And CNBC hosts are pissed. Here's how Senator Chris Coons answers questions about having the VP on their show for a one-on-one interview.
If she would come on this show, and just like you do, and hopefully President Trump's going to come on, but former President Trump, if she would come on, we could get answers to a lot of these things. And I'm just wondering, as a surrogate that advises the campaign, there is an effort to rope-a-dope this thing right to the election, in my view. And the other side's done 40 or 50 interviews with J.D. Vance. I think I don't have to take my shoes off to count on my fingers and toes how many interviews that she's done along with Governor Walz. And that looks like a deliberate effort just not to face the hard questions and to try to, I don't know, I think Americans might finally say, I don't like the way this is working. I want to know. I think Andrew was getting at that in another way, that we would like to know some of it. We'd like to see questions asked and answers provided for all these things. And we may never get that. We only got 40 days left.
We just had Vice President Harris say, yes, let's do another presidential debate. And Donald Trump say no. And you have to agree that a nationally televised hour-long debate is one way to answer a lot of direct questions.
So is just sitting down with an interview with anyone.
The reason that they're not questioning Donald Trump is because he's been an open book this entire presidential run. And the same could be said for J.D. Vance. These two have fearlessly answered questions from the news network. And the only reason why he's saying no to a debate is because if he feels as if he's won both of them. There's no need for him to go out and risk another 3v1 on ABC News or CNN. At this point, he's said what he needs to say.
Former President Trump announced on the campaign trail today he will not agree to a second presidential debate with the vice president. He made those remarks during a rally in Wilmington, North Carolina. Earlier today, Harris announced that she accepted an invitation from CNN to participate in another presidential debate here in Atlanta, October 23rd. The former president responding with this.
She's done one debate. I've done two. It's too late to do another. I'd love to in many ways, but it's too late. The voting is cast. The voters are out there immediately. Is everybody voting? Please get out and vote.
Mr. Trump also criticized Harris for supporting the defund the police movement and her role in border security with the Biden administration.
But with just weeks until the election, journalists are obviously tired of Kamala Harris running from them. And I doubt that she would do any interviews without a script at this point, which has her campaign reeling. They're scrambling right now, and it's not looking good.
I read a book a long time ago, and it basically said something that was really powerful and profound to me. And it said something along the lines of, look at your 5 closest friends, and typically your income is an average of your 5 closest friends. Now, with that being said, I was kind of like thinking, okay, well, how do I find people who made way more than me so I could increase my chances of having a higher income? I mean, it only made sense, right? For less than a cup of coffee a day, for less than $1 a day, join a powerful network of people who are ready to change their lives for the better. And I will be putting a limit on this group, so get in while you can. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now.
And black women like Janet Jackson are not falling for it. In fact, she's not apologizing to the vice president, which has liberal mainstream media in a frenzy to try and attack the pop star. And a supposed representative apologized for Janet Jackson, something that she's also refused to acknowledge given that this person is not a part of her team. But I want you guys to look at how The View twisted this story and made it about Donald Trump, even though Janet Jackson never even mentioned Trump's name.
We don't know what she said because it's been one thing and another. Look, I think Janet Jackson, like every other American, whether you're a celebrity or not, has a right to endorse, support, or not support whomever they want. So she's got every right to not like Kamala Harris if she doesn't want to.
But that's not what she said.
What she doesn't know, what she did was spread misinformation. And I think it's very irresponsible when you have a platform the way Janet Jackson does to use that platform carelessly to spread misinformation based on a racist allegation by Donald Trump. right? It was Donald Trump who tried to say Kamala Harris just turned black.
Now, there's a lot to unravel with Kamala Harris and her alleged roots, but let's go ahead and stick to the facts here, shall we? None of us have definitive proof which shows her ancestry to be connected to African Americans. In fact, what we do know is that her mother is Indian and that her father is Jamaican. Further than that, Donald Harris, her dad, revealed that it is possible that they descended from Hamilton Brown. Now, Hamilton Brown was known as an Irish slave owner. I guess this kind of explains why Kamala won't even talk about her own father and merely sticks to inspirational stories about her mom. But this is not a good look given that she's based her entire identity of being black on her father. Because if he himself doesn't claim to have an African ancestry, then how the heck can Harris be so sure? Now, we can't say for certain that all of this is 100% correct, but we are going by the facts of the story and what has been said by her own family members. And yet, Kamala Harris is going out on all these rallies and doing all these different black accents.
I love you back. Thank a union member for the 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time. Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters and my sorors. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters. And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
Do any of you guys find that offensive? Because some say that she's mocking his accents. That's not how she talks, but she's desperate to play the character that's relatable to black folks, or as she sees it. And she's doing it plainly for votes. Did you ever see her do that as a senator or as a prosecutor? She's doing it now because she's running for president.
Why do they like you better than any other Republican in modern time?
Well, you have to ask the other Republicans.
I'm just saying, you see black support going up with you, Hispanic, young people. Like I said, the people look more like me than you, and they say you're different. Why?
Because I did things in office that nobody else has done. Criminal justice reform. I did criminal justice reform at a level that nobody thought was possible to get. And I did that largely for the black and Hispanic community. They're the ones that wanted it. Opportunity zones with Tim Scott. And he was so much in favor of it. And it's probably maybe the best economic development package ever for African Americans, for Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans. We did a lot of things that people couldn't believe we were able to get done.
So Al Gore and Hillary Clinton are calling right now, Harry, asking what the chances are that Harris could win the popular vote but lose in the Electoral College.
Okay, so basically, you note that 2.5 point lead nationally here, right? Okay, Harris's chances if she wins the popular vote by 2 to 3 points, the chance she wins the Electoral College is only 53%. The bottom line is, once you have to get all the way north to about 3 to 4 points for Harris to have a clear chance, the clear majority chance of winning the Electoral College. If she only wins by less than 2, look at that. Only a 23% chance of winning. Right now, Harris is right now in that danger zone where basically about half the time, given that popular vote margin nationally, she would win. And so here's the situation. Chance Harris wins the popular vote at this point is about 70%, but the chance she wins the Electoral College is only about 50%. So the bottom line is at this hour, John, there's about a 20% chance that Kamala Harris wins the popular vote, but actually loses in the Electoral College. So we could be heading towards one of these splits that we saw in 2016 and in 2000, whereby one candidate, Kamala Harris, wins in the popular vote, but loses in the Electoral College. Basically, at this hour, we're right in that sort of weird middle zone where we honestly don't know what's going to happen based upon the popular vote. And that is why those national polls that show Kamala Harris ahead, at this point, really don't matter that much.
Now, in case you guys didn't catch that, guys, that was CNN senior anchor Henry Enton admitting on national television that all those national polls that have Harris up really don't even matter that much. Also, that debate, it didn't even register any meaningful change in the polls. So it looks like we're going to see Hillary Clinton 2.0 happen because Donald Trump won that ABC debate easy enough, even though they gave Kamala Harris all the questions ahead of time, at least according to many critics online. So yeah, now that the dust is finally settling after the first debate between Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, we see the real situation reveal itself. The political elites, they're just plain oblivious to how Kamala Kamala Harris missed the mark in achieving her goals big time. I mean, sure, you got most mainstream media, news outlets and channels saying that Kamala Harris won, but when you look really closely, it's the political elite, including a number of famous Republicans, completely misreading what happened in the confrontation between the ABC News Harris team and their sole opponent, President Donald Trump. You know what the American people saw? Well, let me tell you guys. Every Trump supporter and many independents saw the blatant bias of ABC's moderators, who appeared less like neutral hosts and more like active debaters helping Harris take on President Trump. Needless to say, guys, viewers are outraged. I've even heard some people outright condemn both ABC and Vice President Harris. Now, one comment online said ABC didn't have to give her the questions. She was clearly giving them the questions. Considering the fact that one of Kamala Harris's close friends runs ABC News only reinforces this idea. For a lot of Americans, the fix was in and the whole thing was rigged. Now, let me tell you guys, the people know what's what. Trump supporters, they make up about 48% of Americans who feel that there is a corrupt establishment trying to control their lives and rip them off. The obvious bias displayed by ABC News during the debate, it didn't help convince them otherwise. In fact, the whole thing only reinforced their beliefs and basically solidified Harris as part of that establishment. Now, I personally know people both in our comments and in real life that are basically downright furious about the debate, and they're frustrated by how Harris seemed to underestimate their intelligence. Harris didn't help their case either. Instead, the vice president spent much of her time pulling faces and trying to look cute for the audiences at home. And if you guys watched the whole thing, you would see how her behavior came across more like that of a spoiled teenager than a potential commander-in-chief of the country. Now, again, this is the political elites at work, guys. You see, the elites, they tend to prioritize style over substance, and they expect everyone to play along as if they're at some fancy Washington cocktail party. But we know better. Most Americans don't appreciate being treated like they're ignorant, especially by polished, clever people who think that they can't see through the manipulation. Now, guys, the reality is Vice President Kamala Harris cannot afford to be honest with who she is, because admitting her true beliefs, not to mention the failures of the past 3.5 years, it would seriously hurt her campaign. And you can see that in the debate. The ABC moderators did everything that they could to prevent Donald Trump from exposing the truth about her. One of the most obvious moments was when they intervened, claiming no states allow babies to be left to die after birth. Now, that statement was completely false. In Minnesota, under Governor Tim Walz, mind you, at least 8 babies have been left to die after botched abortions. It's a matter of public record. Now, if you're looking for a vice president who supports such policies, well, then Tampon Tim is your man. Meanwhile, what keeps President Donald Trump's supporters so loyal despite all of the controversies, from Russia investigations to impeachments and countless legal battles, is that he's not part of the typical polished political class. He's not one of those slick, manipulative elites. You may like or you may dislike Trump, admire him or not, but what you see is the real Trump. But in contrast, the debate between Harris, a privileged left-wing elitist, and Donald Trump, a relatable, straightforward guy that people can actually connect with, it's not that Trump can't navigate high society. After all, he owns country clubs. He can afford all the fancy tuxedos any politician might want, but he's a regular guy who doesn't hide who he really is. And we've seen this time and time again. In politics, authenticity always wins. Being true to yourself beats being bent out of shape just to become somebody your consultants have coached you to be. What the people in Kamala Harris's campaign just don't get is this has become a core truth in American politics for years. Now, I did a previous video where I covered the extremes that they're going to just to get Donald Trump roped into another rigged debate. You're not going to believe the numbers that the polls are showing, so make sure you guys watch that right after this one. Now, as always, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you guys on the next one.